Okay, hi everyone. Here we are again in our statistics class notes. We're still at the end of page 9. I forgot to talk about these questions down here. I did kind of talk about it as I was going over example 12, our dot plot of the female professional soccer players, which again you can see here in the last video we learned how to make this. The features I wanted to make sure that I pointed out that you notice are that individual dots represent individual data values, so you can actually see every single data value visually. And then dots that are stacked, which for example, I talked about how there are 4 dots here stacked at 11, meant there were 4 female soccer players in our data set that played 11 games. They represent the same data values reoccurring. Okay, so moving on to page 10. This is another example of a fictitious dot plot that I just kind of made up, but I just wanted to make sure that you can answer certain questions from it. So in example 13, so if we're looking at this dot plot, which is fictitious cost of books at our bookstore, and you were asked how many textbooks cost $100 or more, so that means they can cost $100 or something more than that. You go to $100, you see there's nothing there. So anything more than $100 are represented by all these different dots. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different dots. So there's 5 textbooks that cost $100 or more. Now what percent of the textbooks cost under 50? So under 50 means do not include $50. So this dot at $50 we will not include, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots that are less than $50. So now it says percent. So you got to remember how to construct a percentage. So for a percentage, we have the number of dots out of the total number of points in our data set. So if you were to count all these, there are 18 different costs here, different data values. So 6 out of 18, but then to turn that into percentage, you need to multiply it by 100. So that comes out to be 33.33%. So 6 divided by 18, that would give you, this is called a ratio, but if you multiply it by 100, you get 100%, so 33.33%. Are there any unusually expensive or inexpensive text? So what's your inexpensive or expensive text? So what we're doing in this part of it is trying to say, hey, are there any dots that are kind of laying out there by themselves somewhere? So these are kind of all grouped together. There's really nothing unusually inexpensive, kind of a bunch of data points in here, but you can notice that this guy sitting way out by himself at around, I don't know, $280 seems unusually expensive because most textbooks are over here. This is what, 160 or less. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of using dot plots? Well, the advantages are it shows individual data values and it helps investigate the shape of the distribution. But disadvantages, it's not as common as histograms, which we're going to talk about next, or other graphs. And it's not great for data with too many individual values. You could see where these dots would kind of become hard to count once you get too many. I do want to show you something with the homework, so let me go show you that. So if we were to click on the section 2122 homework, open it up. I know that question 9 asks you to create your own dot plot, so let's go to that, question 9. So here we have a data set. This is college students asked students who had full-time jobs and students who had part-time jobs how many times they went out to eat in the last month. Briefly compare the distributions of the responses in the two groups. Include appropriate graphics. So they give you a data set here. You do not need to go and type this into StatCrunch yourself. The nice thing is when you're working with data sets that your homework wants you to look at and plot, there's a little icon right next to this. So it says click to copy table, but you'll notice what happens if you click it. It then says open in StatCrunch. So just click this open in StatCrunch and it pops open right here for you. So you have all the data. You didn't have to type it in yourself or do anything like that. So if we want to, this question asks us to plot these two on the same dot plot, kind of one above another. So if you go to graph, dot plot, all that means is just select both variables. So we want to look at the full time. And if you want to select another one at the same time, you click the shift button, select it. So we have both of them selected, and then we'll just hit compute. And there you have both dot plots right over one another. And again, you can expand this to see it better if you want. Get the arrows there, expand the window. But here you have both variables plotted one above the other. Okay, just wanted to make sure I pointed that out before we got too far down the road.